Hello there. Here I review movies, and today's film is Arcadian. It's a horror action film about a father and his sons fighting to survive in a farmhouse at the end of the world. Mike Nylon wrote the story and Benjamin Brewer directed the film, which stars Nicolas Cage as the father and Jada Martell and Maxwell Jenkins as his two sons. Alright, to start off, I think I should be upfront and say that this film is really about the father getting injured and his two sons having to step up and survive on their own while taking care of him. Nicolas Cage gets a decent bit of screen time for the first 30 minutes and then doesn't have much to do until the final act. If you're hoping for a crazy Nicolas Cage performance, you aren't going to get it. He plays the standard role model, protector character, and is just there to help set up the plot and create some emotional stakes. The real leads of this film are the two sons, Joseph and Thomas, portrayed by Jada Martell and Maxwell Jenkins. The two of them go on separate emotional journeys and do a fantastic job of playing two teenagers trying to be normal in a terrifying world. The older son, Thomas, meets a girl from a nearby farm and starts growing distant from his father and brother. He makes a couple of youthful mistakes and it leads to some real trouble, which causes him to have to grow up. Jenkins nails that naive, dumbstruck teenager look and pulls off some decent chemistry with Sadie Silverall. He also bickers well with Martell the way real siblings do. It gets pretty intense and keeps things interesting. The younger son, Joseph, played by Martell, is the sympathetic hero of the story. He tries to understand the creatures, tries to remind his brother of the rules, but he has a tragic flaw. He's an asshole about it. Martell plays sympathetic well, but also manages to be relentlessly brutal when going after Thomas. You almost understand his brother's need to lash out at him. As a whole, the story is quite exciting and filled with drama. It does a good job of the emotional journeys and keeps them interesting, and it's easy to root for Joseph and Thomas to win. They even have some nasty human characters who get karmic justice and a whole lot of action in the final act. For the visual journey, they clearly didn't have much of a budget, but they made do with what they had and managed to create a decent apocalyptic world. They used a farmhouse and some of the surrounding nature to create a good rural atmosphere and setting and kept the monster out of sight for as long as they could by making a lot of scary noises outside and shaking the building. They had some great nature shots along the way and did a decent job of setting up the cave and where the monsters were during the day. I personally loved that shot of Nick Cage sitting next to the waterfall smoking. Especially once you start hearing the monsters in the distance, it gives off this western horror vibe that's kind of intriguing. Their soundtrack wasn't memorable in any way, but it also did a solid job of supporting the emotional journeys and creating a bit of an eerie, intense atmosphere when the story needed it. It's entirely made up of orchestral instrumentals that are mixed well and never compete with the dialogue. So to recap, the story is fun, the two lead actors do a solid job of their roles and manage to create standout characters, and the visual journey pulls off some great moments while the music does a good job with the fundamentals. But the film also has quite a few flaws. Some related to the writing and how nonsensical it is, and others relating to the budget and how chintzy the journey looks and sounds. Let's start with the story. It does the drama parts well, but that's about all it does well. It doesn't explain anything about the monsters, where they came from, how to beat them, or even what they want. They're just mindless things that try to get at the heroes for some reason. The story also progresses randomly. Things just sort of happen without rhyme or reason, and some of the events that transpire are beyond stupid. At one point, I had serious flashbacks to Indiana Jones and that stupid nuclear blast scene. You remember the one, where Indiana Jones survives a nuclear bomb by getting into an old-timey fridge and closing the door. The journey and the ending were fun, but absolutely nothing made sense. They also didn't have the proper budget to do the visual journey. The camera shakes the entire time. Half of the scenes aren't properly lit, and they struggle at times to make events clear to the audience. When it comes to the monsters, they tried their best, but the CGI they used looks really cheap. The actors can't really interact with it either, so they have to do a lot of implied moments that are disappointing. Like the monster will be about to kill someone in a cool way and then they just cut away and you hear screams. A lot of the action and the horror moments are lackluster because of the clear budget constraints, and it's hard not to laugh sometimes. You're constantly left wishing they had more money. The soundtrack is the same way. The music they had is alright and they use it well enough, but it just sounds like every other movie. There wasn't a lot of dialogue in the film, so it was perfect for trying out some original tracks and letting them take center stage to really drive home the emotional journey. They didn't try even once. As a whole, I enjoyed Arcadian. It's definitely a lower budget film, but the actors really committed to their roles and the director clearly has some good ideas for visuals in mind. He just didn't have the money to execute them properly. Despite that, they still had some fun moments and two good emotional journeys. If you like heroes' journeys or apocalyptic settings, this one is good for a lazy afternoon watch. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!